Danya Douglas Hunt, welcome to
Hi.
Revitalize Womanhood.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I've been looking at your stuff and I'm so excited to have a conversation with you because I just know it's just going to be great. Whatever we talk about, our missions align. There's so much similarities. So I'm looking forward to diving into where we would dive into today, which is,
Like-minded, powerfully
yes,
spoken women.
yes,
Yeah,
changing
I love
lives.
changing lives. I love it. It's changing my own life is what I'm doing. I'm hopefully oh, of course, do I not have it right here? One of my most favorite, oh yeah, it's right here. One of my most favorite quotes this year, and it guides me through every decision I make is, if they follow me, if they do as I do, will they be successful?
Oh, amazing. I
Yes.
like that. Yeah,
Yes, Jamie Villalobos. Thank you, lovely. I've
I like
quoted her
that.
before, but it just spoke to me because it's like, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
I better not be telling anybody else to be doing it.
Yeah, it's. I know we're getting into other things, but it's just the process of embodying, right? Like you can tell when someone's embodied what they teach, what they coach on, if they have actually have experience about it, or if they're just talking about it, like copying someone else, right? And I
Oh
love
yeah.
using the metaphor of like, because I used to work with Olympic swimmers, it's like reading a book on swimming and coaching from that versus getting in the pool and swimming. Two very different things. So your quote beautifully encompasses embodying what you do, the work that you do, and people can see the transformation, not only yourself, but recognize that you're walking the path too. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. I'm in the trenches too. Now,
Totally.
you just touched on, I need you to introduce yourself to my listeners because I didn't even realize that, and this is weird because I've been so stuck in our little Instagram world together
I
because
know.
I love your reels and I love going on your walks with you, and you just coach me like while you're on your walks, and I'm like,
Thanks.
yeah, coach me. Yeah. So I haven't even gone over to your podcast yet. And your intro is, you're a former Olympic therapist and strength coach.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? That sounds amazing.
Yes. So reel me in. I'll just keep this short. But when I first was going to school, I just did the classic thing of like go to school, work hard, get a degree. I was an athlete growing up, and so naturally, in front of me was to get a degree, and so I went and did athletic therapy, which is everything to do with injuries. So very similar to physical therapy, chiro, just a specialty for your degree in a certain area. And then with that, I landed my dream job right out of college, working with Olympic athletes. And so I started off with the national swimming team, and then worked with Olympic rugby players and triathlon and diving. And it was amazing. It was my dream at the time. And then I do now what I do, which is more mental performance mindset. Yeah, which we can talk about the pivot or anything you want to do. But that was my background, high performance Olympic athletes, and I transitioned to working with high level entrepreneurs. Very
I want
similar though.
I do want to know what the pivot and where it occurred and why it
Yeah.
occurred, because you would have been in this
Yeah.
all the time. It is all about mindset. It is all
Everything.
about high performance. It is all about this.
Yeah.
So what made you decide, hey, I'm going to be better served coaching this over here?
Totally. Yeah. So several things happened. I just started questioning things. Um, I loved working with the athletes, and I actually wanted to help just more people. My values are really around like autonomy, and in the sport world, you don't really have a ton of autonomy over many things: your schedule, your income, time. And so I was like, how can I take what I'm doing here and help more people, and also be more in charge of what I want to do, time, schedule, where I want to live, etc. So I just started questioning things, and then, like you said, that with Olympic athletes, it's where I helped them mainly was the physical autonomy in that piece, which is injuries, strength conditioning, performance. However, most of it actually is mindset. Even though they had psychologists and everything, when you have an athlete on your table and you're treating them, and they've just come off an ACL reconstruction surgery, the easiest part actually is the plan. Here's a rehab plan, follow the plan. Something happens, we tweak the plan. Like it's the physical, like go to the gym, do your exercises, etc. And we can tweak the plan. The hardest bit for most athletes was getting over fear, trusting themselves, getting back on the field and competing again after such a traumatic event that might have happened to them. So I didn't realize it was called mindset coaching until I got really into this space. But so much of what I did was mindset coaching and helping athletes not only excel at that level, but through some pretty challenging, high pressure, sticky situations. And then just to iterate too, so because some people are like, how'd you go from athletes to entrepreneurs? For me, they're the exact same thing, just different game. Olympic athletes obviously very physical, but their tenacity, their drive, their ambition, their work ethic, their ability to overcome failure, get back up, if you've fallen off, perseverance, long-term vision, all those things are the exact same as an entrepreneur at that high level. Entrepreneurs just deal with it in different ways. Maybe it's a failed launch, bankruptcy, pivoting their career, identity crisis. So for me, when I'm dealing with a high-level athlete and at the Olympic level, what really separates people from a gold, silver, and bronze, or even making the team at all, is mindset and how well you deal with pressure, not your physicality. Everyone is in the top 1% of 1% at that level, but it's how well can you manage your mind around that stuff. Your emotional, your mental resilience, all of those play a bigger part at that level than the physicality. Everyone works hard, everyone's got the best trainers, best nutrition, best everything, but it comes down to here. Entrepreneurs, similar, lots of them have strategy, can work really hard, and what stops them or slows them down is their mind. Someone else can have the exact same strategy or work really, really hard, and their fear of failure or their fear of being judged or feelings of not worthy or essentially all this mind drama and body drama, the buzz, the nervousness, the feelings of anxiety, stop them from moving forward. And so why I switched to entrepreneurs is entrepreneurs can change the world. And if I can help an entrepreneur get out of their own way, who has a dream, has an ambition to also live life on their terms, to help a lot of people, someone who might have an amazing invention or a company that's going to help, new moms start their businesses. If I can help that person get out of their own way, the ripple effect it creates in the world is exponential. And so I transitioned. When did I transition? 2018, I went online for physical therapy, and then around 2019, 2020, I switched completely to entrepreneurs because I was just so fascinated by all the mind drama, the stuff that holds people back. Not only because I experienced it myself, like the whole identity crisis of who the heck are you to do this? You spent all your time, all your education, all these thousands of hours specializing in here, and now you're going to do something that has nothing to do with your career, your degree. And so it was through a lot of lived experience, but also when I was going to grow that business online, when I witnessed coaching and working with entrepreneurs, I just absolutely fell in love with it. So long story short, it's like a 5-minute thing. That's kind of the pivot into it. But yeah.
No, I love it. Actually, I'm going to take it back because I just got done talking about this with my friend Maria. We were talking about the only thing that separates people from being successful or not, it's like you're saying, you have all the exact same things. You have all the exact same trainers. You have all the exact same, everything's great, whatever. Yep. What separates us, so in an entrepreneurial world or life for that matter, what separates the person that travels more or that does, what separates them is, it was funny because I said courage and commitment, and and I'm going to add curiosity to that. She's like curiosity, courage, and commitment. And it is literally, it's so funny because I've heard it from so many people in podcasting that they're like, it's just consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, being able to show up and do the thing is over and over and over and over again. And that's in everything. Look at losing weight, look at a diet, look at building a muscle, but anything, it's just showing up and doing it every day consistently.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
It is. And it's also just like, can you build the emotional, mental fortitude or resilience to get you through that? Because as entrepreneurs, just like you used building muscle, right? You work so hard in the gym. You can change your diet. You show up to the gym every day. But do we really notice differences day to day? No. It's like you only notice differences when you stick at it for, like you said, consistently. And this is an entrepreneurs in business, especially if people are newer or starting out or pivoting or changing something or testing or tweaking an offer. When you're in the middle, in the gray zone, if you don't know how to handle the mind and body around that, most people will see the lack of growth, which there's always growth happening. And I love how you started this podcast. I think you started recording, where it's like April and May, uncovering the stuff that's holding you back and then replanting new seeds. It's in that moment of the middle ground when it feels like there's no work being done, or it feels like there's no progress being done. And even in fact, there's setbacks happening, or there's things going sideways or backwards from what you intended. Can you stay at it? Can you stick with it? Whether it's an athlete going for injury, still on that Olympic path, or an entrepreneur going for their first 6-figure, 7-figure business or creating a certain lifestyle, can you stick it with it through the gray, unknown, tumultuous middle area? Because if you can, your success is guaranteed. You just got to stick at it. And I love how you use the metaphor, even just the example of uncovering things in April. You said it way more beautifully than I'm saying it right now, but then planting new seeds. When you plant a seed, it looks like nothing's happening on the surface forever, right? Like there's nothing happening. Yet underneath the surface, there's so much happening. Roots are growing, things are getting, nutrients are coming in. And then after all that work's being done, then you see the little leaf or then you see the little bud. But most people forget, like when they're in that middle area and being planted, there's a ton of work being done underneath the surface, but because we don't see it yet or like how we want it, that can deter people from moving forward or it just slows them down or stops them completely. So yeah, I really, really resonate with that.
Yeah. So I hadn't pushed record. So my community has monthly topics. And so for April and May, I'm doing kind of a double whammy, and it's April showers, bring May flowers, which is so appropriate for us right now because we are just getting poured on. So much rain, so much rain. And we love it, except for at the same time, our road washed out. Ooh, again, we can't even get to our cabin. My husband's going to have to go pretend like he knows how to use a bobcat and go do his thing. But anyway, so April showers being get rid of the old, get rid of the toxic, get rid of this self-limiting or these limiting beliefs and this untruths and the labels and the past stories and things that hold you back, right? That you get your feet stuck in because you think that that's who you are because of things that happened to you. And it's like, no, that's a thing that happened to you. That's not who you are. Yeah. And then into May, growing this beautiful flower out of it, right? And so I kind of would love you. We'll see how it goes. I had a different direction, but now that we're talking about it, I think I want to talk to you about April and getting rid of the keeping you stuck and the toxic and the, I think I'm going to ask you about May and get into that, but I think I'd like your help with that. Like, how do we get, because in May, I really, to be able to get past the stuck, whatever, I think that there are two very foundational, the legs, if you imagine you're in your, what's the grounded pose in yoga? It's not the tree, it's the,
I was going to say Savasana, that's not it. It's lying down.
Yeah, right. I know, I'm like,
outside pose.
Anyway, the
squat one?
No,
chair?
Just the standing powerful. It's just it's like.
A warrior?
No, anyway. Neither one of us. If someone will know, it's just literally you're just standing there with your arms down and your feet planted, right? So your feet, imagine your feet are the two legs in which you stand on, and your foundation is mindset and self-confidence. I think, and I got into this with one of my other guests, and I loved it because she thought I'm like, which one's the chicken or the egg, right? Mindset or confidence? And she thinks mindset, and I think confidence. I think it's self-confidence because, and I don't want to go back into that because we already did that. But so before you can even get unstuck, I think you have to visit self-acceptance, self-confidence, and self-love. You have got to have the trifecta, because if you can't appreciate who this is, then you can't get any further. You know what I mean? Because you're constantly going to be reminded that you're that person or that this happened to you. So now that's who you are, or you're going to identify as a trauma you had, or right. So I think the self-confidence has to be the very, very, very first thing that happens.
Okay, this is so fun, and I'm really open to see where this goes. I think very contrarian to what's out there, and I want to make sure if anything doesn't make sense, just ask so I can articulate things better. I don't know, I agree and I disagree, and here's why. It depends on how we're defining confidence. So I'd be curious of like, when you think of confidence, what comes to mind for you or your listeners that are tuning in? Like, what would you say with your audience is like, how would you define confidence?
So I have a distinction, actually. Confidence is not self-confidence.
Okay, beautiful.
Self-confidence is self-love and your self-worth, right? Confidence is being good at something well enough that you can stand and present it or talk about it, or, it's something like I've traveled enough to know I could stand confidently and tell someone how to travel.
Yeah.
I've done
it's
it.
your experience, right?
But self-confidence is the relationship that I have with myself. I think that self-confidence is a bonds category for me in my community. It's bonds. Because it's a relationship. It's not a beliefs up here.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and this comes back to, because I always look at things from how the mind processes information, right? So if we look at our subconscious mind, let's not get too nerdy here, Danya, but our subconscious mind is responsible for 95 to 99% of everything we do. It is a supercomputer. It's so necessary because, for example, as I'm talking to you right now, my conscious mind is formulating thoughts, right? But my subconscious mind is controlling my lips, my tongue, the noise coming out, my hands moving, I'm not thinking of those things actively. And it's also responsible for things like heart beating and breath work and blinking and those things. And its job is to help take off everything on your plate that it can and run it as a habit or a program, okay? And what happens is we have all this data coming in all the time. I'm going to link it back to your thing, so if I don't, make sure I do. But the tangent's going to loop, I promise. So why it's important to know is our mind is always taking information, right? Like 4.6 billion bits per second. Information's coming in and our subconscious mind remembers everything and processes everything for you automatically. We would genuinely die from overstimulation if we had to think about how to raise my finger and point and turn my tongue and blink and then breathe and oh my God, my heartbeat, all these things are happening. And so what's a part of our subconscious as well is things like identity, like you shared, your beliefs, your values. And as we go through life, especially as we're younger, what's modeled around us is imprinted in us, right? So our beliefs about money, about the way life is, about myself, about X, Y, Z, our experiences in life, whether we label them big T trauma or little T trauma, are all being processed and internalized and essentially stored in a filing cabinet, okay? And Danya, who's 32 as an adult, still has a lot of programs that she learned and picked up as a 5-year-old. This is why I love the work I get to do, is because most business owners are actually operating from their 5-year-old brain versus their whatever age brain that they are. Now, if we look at it through the lens of our subconscious mind's job is to help bring in data and process it. And then after that process, create thoughts or behaviors. From that perspective, when we look at things like self-confidence or confidence itself, or really any concept, we're looking at how the mind is processing data through all of those filters that we have learned, embodied, or taken on. And from that filtration system, the lens we're kind of looking through, then we get to decide how we move forward. And so when we think of even self-confidence or relationship with ourselves, some people will say what you said, which is beautiful. It is about self-worth and loving ourselves and how we see ourselves. And I believe that how you see yourself determines what's possible for you, right? If you don't think, let's be careful what I say here. If I have a belief or a feeling that I'm not worthy of money or worthy of being on a stage or something, I can still look at that and say that's just a program that my brain has learned from whatever experience I might have experienced as a young kid or what was modeled around me, and it's now perpetuating that behavior. It's almost like this automatic computer program running. To ground this a little bit more before I come back to that, when we look at driving, when you first learn how to drive, holy crap, that was stressful. Check the mirrors. What about this? Foot on the gas. You would think of all these things. But now we just drive automatically with drinking tea, having a conversation, singing to music, looking around, enjoying the view. And so that's a tangible example of what the subconscious mind does. When we do something enough times, we think the same thought over and over again, aka forming a belief, or we do a certain behavior over and over again, our subconscious brain takes that and runs it as an automatic program. People learning how to drive and then now driving freely, it's like, oh yeah, I can now create that tangible example. So when it comes to self-confidence, self-worth, or just confidence in general, we can look at a lens of that can be an interpretation or meaning for ourselves. But the foundation of what actually creates that is all of our internal filters and our lens and our perspectives of what was modeled around us. The flip side of that is right now, as we're having this conversation, or we're growing our businesses, is it a requirement for me to feel self-confident or worthy in order to be here in this conversation? Some people say yes.
Because you can fake it.
Yeah, totally. And so the whole conversation around self-confidence and what you kind of brought in was a beautiful relationship with yourself. All of those things, we can look at it through various lenses. But what has created those lenses is that subconscious mind processing information and automating things that most of us have no idea what's aware of. So where I think it's important is recognizing, is the belief about this, how I define it, useful for me or not useful for me? Versus if it's right or wrong, has to be this way or this way first. Because I know very successful people who have a really crap relationship with themselves. Does that mean it's right or wrong? No. But is it a requirement to move forward and create a level of success that I think is necessary? If I believe that to be true, my brain is going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy in order to create that. So until I believe in myself, then I won't be successful. But I also can contrarian that or create a contrarian perspective. I know a lot of people who make a lot of money who are unhappy or miserable or not confident. I know people who have hundreds of thousands of followers and are still scared of what people think of them.
Yeah.
And so where I think it's important to have the conversation around is just more perspective. Is it useful for me? Is it helping me work towards my goals or not? And where you bring up what's just so beautiful is becoming aware of what is slowing me down or what's causing resistance in my own life, my own thinking, my own behaviors, my own actions that is preventing me or slowing me down from achieving this thing. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like an absolute truth or like this has to be the only one way. We don't have to have, if it helps you, absolutely do it. But it's not a requirement just because we can find examples of people with self-confidence and people with none and have a variety of different results.
That's true. That's true. But what if you could create the perfect, doesn't exist, the perfect person scenario, right? Mm-hmm. If you could say, you will have the best life if I can create this perfect design of a person, would you start it with self-love and self-confidence, then move forward? Or would you start it with the mindset to trust yourself enough to know that even though you don't value yourself as well, you will still be able to be a successful person throughout your life?
Yeah, and fun question. And it leads me back to even a perspective shift, an identity shift that helps a lot of people get out of their own way and get out of this like current identity, is to tap into that. Like, how would my most confident, badass, successful, happiest person version of myself think or deal with this situation or problem? And so we can tap into that. I think it's important. I just think it's not a requirement because we can find so many examples of people with both. Now, being happy and fulfilled, I would take that any day over any of the accolades. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But we can definitely have both. Yeah. And I know people who have created both variations, many different variations, different ways as well. Some absolutely loving themselves, some not even giving two craps and just focusing on impact or income. And so my flip question would be back to you or to your audience of like, what is more useful for me to think? What is more useful for me to embody or believe that's going to actually help me move towards the dream and goal that I'm working towards? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it can change, one, and two, it can be different for everyone. The most important thing is asking myself, what do I want? And how do I define that? Because even with success, how you define success is going to be very different than me and the next person. And I think the perception, especially of like online social media, like the highlight reel, is people think, oh my God. And this actually was me in the beginning of my pivot of doing my degree. I did what I thought was my version of success. Went to school, worked my butt off, got my degree, worked with my athletes, and it was amazing. And then I realized, oh my gosh, this actually isn't what I want. But along that path, I never questioned what my definition of how I wanted to live life, what I wanted to experience, what did I want to be doing, how did I want to spend my time. And so first anchoring in is, what do I want? Why do I want that? Like, why is that important to me? And is it what I truly want or what I think I want based on society and what I've seen modeled around me and I see online because my mentor is doing that or someone who I love is doing that, but actually I don't really want that. Because the worst thing is getting success without fulfillment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So we first got to start there and then asking, how do I actually define that? And what is going to help me or be more useful? Where is it? Okay. Using the word help implies that you need help or you can't do it in yourself. So I'm going to take that out of my language. Assist. What's going to help assist me to get to that goal of a life that I define on my own terms? And for some, it absolutely is. Like, I've done tons of things around breath work and releasing and self-love and improvement. Big time. I really got to figure out who I was, especially after I called off my engagement. I think I told you that. I did like 2 years of just, who am I? What do I want? And I think that relationship with yourself is valuable, but it's not actually required.
I think I'm so glad you went there. I literally, one of the questions right here that I wrote for you. So I'm so glad you went there is, okay, so the question I wrote, so it's not quite, but I put, why do we forget how to dream big and how do we fix it?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is being able to ask yourself, what do I want and why do I want it?
Yeah.
And I don't think people dare to answer that. I think they'd rather check off the box.
Oh, it's for sure.
So my husband and I have this story, and he's such an ass, I swear. This story, he loves it. He thinks it is a win. And I look at it like it is such a fail, but he looks at it as a win. And because we were engaged, I found the phone. He'd been texting an ex, and I was like, bye-bye, peace out, wedding's off, right? And then hated his guts for however long. And finally, he comes to me trying to, one last plea to get me back. And he says, well, I'm going to go on this trip with this girl. And I'm like, I don't care. I could care less what you do, right?
Attached,
and he's like, okay, well, just so you know. And I'm like, whatever. And I said, but if it is with this girl, I will never speak to you again. Don't even come near me. Right? Just don't waste your time. I hate your guts. Just don't waste my time. Anyway, so he's like, well, it's not. Well, okay. Like a week after we get married, a couple months later, a week after we get married, his mom's like, well, weren't you just with Tiffany in Yellowstone or something? Didn't you see it with, and I'm like,
yeah.
What? Okay, so I am livid because he took that choice away from me, right? That was my choice to have, because he's like, well, if I would have told you, you would have never married me. And I'm like, well, you took my choice away, right? But he says, this is why this is a good thing for us. He went on that trip to really, really decide, yes, Gina is who I want to marry. And it did. It showed him on this trip, yes, I chose right. Yeah. That is the woman I want, right? So I see his point of view, but I don't think people are brave enough to do those kinds of things. Like you are saying, I stepped back from something that I could have lived. I could have lived that life. It could have been happy. We're kind of all chameleons in some way or another. We can kind of adapt. But you took a step back and thought, this is going to suck. I'm going to call off this engagement. Who knows what's on the other side of this? And right. But you committed to it and you did it. You took that chance. So that takes us back to the courage, commitment, and whatever our other C was.
Curiosity.
Yeah. Curiosity. Right.
Yeah.
And nobody, like, how big of a percent is willing to do that? And that's why we have successful people and not successful people.
Yeah. And then even successful who are fulfilled and some who are successful and are not fulfilled.
Yes.
And again, it's like there's no right or wrong for someone, but there is a right or a more aligned thing for you, if you want to say. But to even just take the time and reassess in your life, like, is this good? This is what I want. And being okay with it can change. So I went from changing my dream career to something totally different online. And I had the barrage of, you're crazy. What are you doing? But I also had to listen to that voice I had that just kept nagging at me inside, intuition, higher self, whatever you want to call it, that just was like, just trust yourself. And then the same thing with that relationship. We were together almost 8 years. I knew every day of how it was going to go. And within a span of like, I didn't expect to have the conversation with him that night. And like that night, I genuinely became like homeless, didn't know where I was going to live. I took time off business, like everything reset, friends reset, everything reset. But it also comes back down to, which was your question, ironically, around your relationship with yourself. And in those moments, will I be like, oh, did I really love myself? I wouldn't necessarily say I love myself, but it was, did I have the courage to face what I wasn't necessarily happy with or want to change? Or even just to pause and say, is this what I want? And then if it's not what I want, do I have the courage to trust myself to make a decision, and that no matter what decision I make, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make the outcome that I want to make, whether we ended up getting back together, whether it was doing my own thing. It's the self-trust of knowing that I've done it in the past before. And also, no matter what choice I make, I'll make it work out. And I think most people are just like, here's my current pain or issue or life, and it's good, but it's not great. And they associate the great life with a lot of pain and unknown, and it's fear. And we talked about fear a little bit before, where the fear of unknown or the fear itself, for most people, is like, they just don't even want to look there. It's way more comfortable and easy to go through your same self-sabotage behaviors, your same day-to-day, because you know that. And your brain, your subconscious mind, loves predictability. It's always looking for what's going wrong. It's always looking for threats. Its job is survival, continuation. The same brain that operates all the animals out there, the primitive mind, is our subconscious mind here, our primitive mind. So it's looking at everything as a threat, like life and death. Now, when you look at things like change or anything different, even a health habit, or I want to do something different today, or I want to change my business or pivot, any change to the brain is considered a threat, and your primitive brain treats it like it's going to kill me, so don't do it. So what stops a lot of very smart, capable, very self-aware entrepreneurs is the fact that they don't understand how the mind really works and how to use it for them instead of letting it just run the show. So to come back to a little bit of our conversation of chicken and egg, do we need self-love or mindset? When you understand how the mind works, you can then program it with what you want, and you can help it work for you, recognizing that the fear, the buzz, like the anxiety, the stress, the nervousness, the freaking out, the panic attacks, whatever it is, when you understand why that's happening, when it does occur, it's not as, either it doesn't happen as intense or it doesn't happen as often because you know how to work with it, but also reprogram it so it doesn't happen as much anymore. And so the mindset piece and the foundation piece really sets a tone for everything you have moving forward, which can enable you to step more into the embodiment of self-love, self-trust, living life on your terms, etc. But if anyone was to take away one thing from this, if you can look at your brain as scanning the environment every second for a billion bits of information, what's wrong, what's the threat, what's going to kill me, your conscious brain, I know, someone leaving a mean comment's not going to kill you, but your primitive brain responds to the trigger inside of you as if it's a lion about to eat you. So unless you overcome that and are able to shift and understand that, no matter how much self-love you do, unless you reprogram that or clear that, it's always gonna go back to its subconscious way.
That's so cool. That is so interesting, so fascinating. Actually, have you seen that new show on, it's, what's his name, Hemsworth, Thor, and he is going through these situations of
like Limitless?
Is that what it's called?
The series on, oh yeah.
Yes.
What's
yes,
that? Hemsworth,
yes.
come on.
I mean, yeah, right? I'm like, you had me at Thor. Thank
Yes.
you. I don't care what this is about. He could
No.
just be sitting there eating
dance
chips.
around.
I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
okay. My
Yeah.
husband's like, hey, do you want to watch this show with Thor? And I'm like,
Yes, I
okay,
do.
sure, no.
Yeah.
Anyway, and yeah, that's what they're trying to do with him is get in his brain and reprogram it to not fear
Yes.
things that should be scary.
Yeah.
And take the fear out of it and make it
Totally.
something that is just a thing. It's
Yeah.
not bad weather. It's not good weather. It's just weather.
Yeah.
It's not scary water. It's not fun water. It's just water. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and it's our own interpretations or meanings that we give any event in our life, which you brought up some really fun stuff that we don't have to get into, but around your husband and taking away choice. All that's also interpretation too, right? Like everything is a meaning or interpretation that we give based on our internal filters and lenses and experiences we've been through. Which we can get into what fear actually is if we want to. I don't know. You tell me where you want to go, because I can ramble.
No. Oh my gosh, I love it. This is so good. We're gonna have you back, because this is you're gonna come back. I'm sure you'll filter back around here. We'll meet up again somewhere. But I wanted to get so I'm gonna come back to the why do we forget to dream? Why do we forget to dream big, and how do we fix that? Because which one would be first? Yeah, let's go there.
Well,
so why do we forget to dream? I know I have my philosophies. I know that a stay-at-home mom has been, it's like you said, we've been told we need to be this. We need to be the perfect mommy. We need to be the perfect wife. We need to have the perfect house. We need to have, everything's telling us the things that we are supposed to be doing.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the things that we maybe thought, I would like to be an opera singer or something, right? It's like, no, that does not coordinate with these boxes that you're supposed to fit in. Yeah. So no for you. So that's my philosophy. Yeah. And then it just gets pushed down and pushed down. So is that your same philosophy?
Yeah, similar. It comes back down to our conditioning. And we all live in such a time where everything's so busy. There's so many distractions, right? You pick up your phone and you can connect someone across the world, or watch a show, or like you can literally do everything from this device. And there's entertainment. And so like if we think about habits or our subconscious mind, right? If we think the same thought over and over again, it becomes a belief. If people understood that and they can start shifting their beliefs, it's just a thought you continue to think until you believe it to be true. It's not the truth, it's your truth in this one area. How we can start shifting that is start thinking new thoughts and start do some subconscious programming, but also just changing our thoughts that we're thinking and becoming aware of what our thoughts we're thinking. So if thoughts become automatic and our behaviors become automatic, how many of us wake up in the morning and think what hand we're going to brush our teeth with? Nope. Let's grab the toothbrush, brush it right hand all the time. When we try to go brush our teeth with our left hand, it's really awkward and uncomfortable. And so what's happening is when we do something different from the normal, we are creating cognitive dissonance in the mind. So you think how many times we've had a certain thought or done a certain behavior, it just gets ingrained as a habit and a pattern to run automatically. Another example of this would be, let's say when I'm reaching my comfort zone, I get really uncomfortable. I'm launching something, I want to be on stage. I even get yes, Danya, you can go on stage. And then all of a sudden, instead of going forward with what I want, even though I consciously want that, subconsciously, my body's experiencing stress or threat, right? Tiger, I'm going to die. And so it's immediately looking for something to relieve that. And so for myself, what I used to do is when I got uncomfortable reaching my comfort zone, I would look to clean my house or learn something online. Why? Because my brain thought it was being productive and I got a dopamine hit and it felt good. I did that enough times where I go to do something uncomfortable and instead I do this. My brain, when I move away from what's uncomfortable or what's different, I'm telling my subconscious mind that that's a threat and that's not safe. Even though it's totally safe. Dang, just put a post on. Danny, increase your prices, just change a number on the screen. Every time I go away from something that is discomfort or something different, I tell my brain subconsciously that is a threat, that's not safe. And if I incorporate it with another habit like cleaning, how many of us clean our house, or shopping, or eating certain foods, or learning, again, I'm just creating a new habit and pattern. So I think Joe Dispenza was one who said it. By the time you're 35, 95 or 98% of who you are is already a pre-programmed habit. So everything we're doing and not doing, thinking, not thinking, is just a habit. Now, that kind of answers your question is why we stop dreaming, is most of us don't take the time from this busy distractions of world to even pause and ask, what do I want? Because we're so ingrained in these thoughts, habits, and these actions and behaviors that are just running on repeat, automatic. And it's smart, but then again, when you can understand why your mind's doing it or what it's actually doing, you can hack it. You can make it work for you. So partly distractions for sure.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Well, partly distractions. Because
distractions.
We don't have to dream anymore. We've got distractions.
Yeah. Let's just watch Netflix. Let's just, do something different that I'm comfortable with doing. And I don't think, another part of it can be environment too, like who you surround yourself with. Are you surrounding yourself with a bunch of people who don't dream big and is like, who thinks very differently about money or what's possible for your life? Like, oh, you know, you can't have everything and you just got to stick at a job for 40 years and do these things. I don't know about you, but I grew up very different than how my parents grew up and how my grandparents grew up. But that's what's being passed down and what was modeled around me as a young kid. And when you're 0 to 7, you don't have that critical factor to reject information. You're just a sponge taking everything on. So again, it goes back to whatever age you are right now, your subconscious mind of those programs you learned from 0 to 7 are predominantly running your life. And until you pause and take the time to recognize, what do I want? Is this what I want? And give yourself space and capacity to question what's in your life. Am I happy with my health? Do I want to do this job? Do I want to do this business? Do I want to do X, Y, Z? Until you pause and give yourself space, it's going to run automatic, just like your heartbeats right now.
I just flip back like 20 pages here, and it says, Joe Dispenza, 70% of life people live in fear of survival.
Totally. And now, if you can begin to understand what that is, though, like why it's happening, instead of being like, oh, woe is me, poor me, I can't do anything about it. It's like, no, you have like magnificent ability to change. But yes, it takes conscious work. Yes, it takes subconscious work as well, but it's absolutely possible. But are you willing to go through that discomfort to get there? Are you willing to, like, let's bring up an example even about money. I don't know why I use these Kardashians. I don't really know if all of them. I know there's like a zero, I'm not into any gossip, but how probably Kim Kardashian grew up around money is probably very different to how I grew up around money. Mm-hmm. And what I thought money was, what was possible, working hard, etc. And so her identity level or beliefs about money is going to be very different than mine. Who's right or wrong? There's no right or wrong. But my perspective and my environment can shape that. So for a lot of us right now, if we look at our friends or our peer group or our mentor group, etc., are they living the lifestyle that I want? And if 90% of my day is spent around people who just complain, who are negative, who are living in a very constricted, this is how it has to be, then not only am my own thoughts and behaviors reinforcing that, but the people around me is giving me input around that. Versus being in a group of entrepreneurs who are like, you only make $1 million a month? That's nothing. I make 20 million. Like, you know, so it's who you can surround yourself in your environment can signal the thoughts and beliefs as well within your body and reinforce more and more and more. So I don't know if I answered your question. It's a couple things.
Well, absolutely. My husband's dad, he always had this quote that you can't soar with eagles if you're running with turkeys.
Big
right?
time. Yep.
And it's the best. It is so true. Yeah. No, I actually just wanted to really cement in that you gave us an actionable step there. Is when you become stuck or scared or have those flight or flight feelings, go do something easy. Mm-hmm. Go do something. And it's funny because I always tell them, they hear me say this all the time. I go clean a toilet. Mm-hmm. I go wash a mirror. Yeah. Because it is so easy and mindless and it's something getting done. It feels good. It's something getting done. I know that I just got something done, but I didn't have to like even think about it. It just was in a habit. Exactly. And so I love that you use that example because I say that all the time. Yeah.
And then you look at like, okay, so if you can create, so I had another interview with another very successful business owner, and she was bringing up, Danya, how do we, it was more about intuition, how we tap into that, or like, what do we first start doing, etc. And the first thing I said was like, you just like create some space to be quiet. And that caused her to go into like just freaking out. And it was interesting because it's like, she's mom, runs a busy business, has kids, you know, busy. First of all, everyone's busy. Beyonce, everyone has the same 24 hours in a day. Yeah. So we can look at the stories we're telling ourselves as, again, is this useful for me getting to more goals or not useful? Because I know someone out there who's got more kids, is busier than me, and still living the life that they want, fulfilled, happy with time and space. Ebbing and flowing, of course. But when I suggested even just starting with like a minute of, can you just be like present and quiet for a minute? Set your alarm. Check in with yourself. A really easy thing you can do is set your alarm on your phone with a nice ringtone. It's not something that's jarring. And just every, couple hours, set it off, and just when it goes off, get present. Where's my attention? Where's my energy? Where are my thoughts? Is it working towards where I want or not? But the thought for her of even creating 5 minutes of quiet space was terrifying. And that thought led to a deep-rooted belief about the fear of failure. And so recognize that everything we do in our lives is not bad or good, but rather patterns that we've created at the subconscious level to help us continue. It's that same primitive brain as like the zebra. Its only thought is surviving. And every action or behavior is trying to lead towards you surviving. Consciously, you know, cleaning my sink is not going to help me build my business, but your brain's seeing that you've perceived a threat, that might kill me. I need to remove myself from the threat, go do something that feels safer. So when people are like, I don't even want to create 5 minutes, or I'm doing a certain behavior or pattern that's not favorable, I don't like it, ask ourselves, what's preventing me from doing X, Y, Z? What's preventing me from taking 5 minutes in my day? Waking up 5 minutes earlier, so then before my kids come running in and jumping on my bed at 4 a.m, I have 5 minutes for myself to ground in, check in with myself first. What do I want? How am I intentionally creating my day, or am I on autopilot? Newsflash, 99% of people are on autopilot and just going through the same things over and over and over again. And so we have to create some sort of pattern interrupt. And the best thing you can do is create space and just get quiet and get still. I like to do this in nature, so you don't have to sit there, but find something that can help you create space to allow the conscious logical thoughts up here that are running around quiet just for a moment. And the questions you have for yourself of like, what do I want? Why do I want this? When you ask yourself those questions, the answers will come through. The thing is, when you get the answer, mine was leave the guy, switch your careers. It's okay if it scares you. You don't have to act on the thought, but
quiet brain.
No, don't think that thought, neither thought. But it's can you give yourself space to even get quiet first and ask yourself those questions? And then you don't have to act them right away, but just sit with it and continue to ask yourself those questions over time. And from that place, do you have the courage to listen to what comes up for you? Because everyone has the same answers, not the same answers, your own answers. You know what's best for your life. When I coach people, I don't have their answers. They all already know what to do, but there's some sort of fear or thinking or blind spot blocking them, and I just help uncover what that is to help them move forward. Everyone already has their own answers, but do you give yourself a moment to ask yourself and connect with yourself around that? Most people don't.
Well, and that brought me to prioritizing what's important to you.
Yeah.
Because I constantly, and it's really interesting to me, and I actually recorded with this gal who I'm actually going to talk to you about after this because
Nice.
I'm a bridge person.
Love it.
But she was talking about spending habits and women, and she's like, oh no, women, even if they are not the ones that control the money, they will spend it. They will figure out a way. If it is important to them, they will spend it. So this goes same with time for me, because I get a lot of questions and I can kind of feel them out. It's women saying, well, what are the time commitments you require in the community? Or when is the call? Because I want to make sure if I can't make the call, I don't want to be part of the whole community. And it's like, okay, let's go back to Mr. Ed Milet and listen to how he schedules his day, right? Or how he lays out his calendar for the month and schedules it. He puts in what's the very most important first, right? We all can figure out what our values are. We can all figure out where our priorities are.
How soon do you put yourself? Where do you put yourself on that list?
Exactly.
The top of the list?
Exactly.
Or the bottom? You should definitely be the top. My morning is me time. Because when my cup's full, I can overflow it to other people. But yes, keep going because you're on a good thought.
Well, so, and even like using colors, right? Yeah. I think that is a perfect way to show you, because like red is my coaching, black is my community, blue is my oldest son, purple is my middle son, right? I know exactly what they are in my planner because I can see their color. And so I just said it to one today and I said, you will prioritize what is important to you. It's not going to matter when that call is. It's not going to matter if it's right in the middle. I have women who are working full-time jobs. I have women who are single moms running the whole show, and they all seem to make it to this call. So I think there's your answer. Like, and if you're not ready to commit to something, then you're just not ready to commit to something.
So this is so good. Oh gosh, we're going to go quickly. I agree. In terms of we make time for what's important to us. So for everyone who's listening, and catch yourself, when you become aware of things and you make the unconscious conscious, you can change it. So instead of saying I don't have time for something, that's not truth. What's actually being said is, I haven't made time yet for that. And when you say it from that lens, it gets you back in your, whatever you want to say, like in your power, because you're recognizing it's up to you. It's your responsibility. Mel says this all the time, Mel Robbins, no one's going to come save you except for you. Like, it's up to you. So instead of saying, I don't have time, I'm not making time, or that's, the language of that is different. One is you're a victim and it's you can't help anything. The other is, no, this isn't a priority for me. I'm not making time for that yet. And that's okay. The second thing is about being ready. Oh, it's so fun to uncover this stuff. For yourself, when you ask because I get this too, if I'm in coaching programs, what time's the call? I've joined programs that are coaching that's in UK, and my coaching calls were at 2 a.m. I woke up every time at 2 a.m. Like, I made it work because I'm attaching to what's important to me. Is this useful for me? What do I want? What's going to help me get there? And I'm going to show up as the version of me who already has it now. And she would show up for these calls to get this help. But the second thing is, what's preventing me from thinking I'm ready? Because I guarantee you it's not the calls. It's not the call time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's another fear underneath that that's actually underneath the root of that. But an easy way and a scapegoat is, oh, I don't have time. I don't have the money. I don't have X, Y, Z.
Yep.
When we say things like, I don't have the money, I guarantee you, if you had an emergency, something happened to your dog, my dog, I would find a way to get that, whatever, 10K for that surgery if I needed to, whatever. Your car, your house, you'd find a way to make it happen. So what's different about that time than this program or this coaching time, etc.? It's just a matter of being resourceful and prioritizing what's important to us. Yeah. And it's okay to say, hey, this isn't important to me right now. But don't fall into a victim mindset of, I don't have the time, I don't have the money. People get resourceful. People make the time for what's important to them. And just honor, if that's me right now, and I've said this before in the past, I don't have time for this, honor that it's not a commitment for me, and that's okay. Maybe in the future it will be, or maybe not, but don't use it as an excuse to not move forward with something that you want to be doing in life.
Boom. I love that. I love it so much. So how do we play bigger in life?
Oh my God.
Let me just make an entire podcast episode out of that.
Yeah. It's the name of my podcast. What do you know?
I know.
How do we play bigger?
Yeah.
Such a good question. The first and foremost is asking yourself. So looping back to in a different way, your relationship with yourself, but it's really asking the questions like, what do I want? Because that guides your North Star for everything you do moving forward. And questioning, why do I want that? Because oftentimes people will say to me, the white picket fence, the house. And you actually start digging into like their values or lifestyle, and you recognize like they're really into travel or they're really into X, Y, Z. And those values don't align. And when we ever have inner conflict, your subconscious brain's always going to go to your old patterns, your old ways of thinking. So it's first asking, what do I want? And ask yourself that every day until you know. And it's okay not to know. Asking yourself, why do I want that? That's your North Star. And then from this place of, okay, if that's what I want, when you learn how to master your mind in terms of mind and body emotional regulation, anything is possible for you. It first for me always starts though with, where's my North Star? And then how do I understand myself in order to get myself to that goal? Whatever is on someone's heart as a desire, whether we go into quantum physics and every reality is existing, etc., it wouldn't be put in your heart of why you want that if it wasn't a possibility for you. Right now, I use the example of I spend so much time studying neuroscience and now really heavy studying in RRT, rapid resolution therapy with Dr. John Connolly. His take on the mind and subconscious is like revolutionizing trauma, grief, everything to do with the mental health space. It's so fascinating and beautiful, the transformations he's creating. But notice I'm not studying engineering. I don't have any pull to do engineering. I have a pull to do this mindset work. And so it's asking myself, what do I want? Why do I want this? And what's going to help create the bridge to get towards that? And be okay with whatever that is. For everyone listening, I started off doing Olympic athletes. I busted my butt. That degree was not easy. The board tests were not easy. The time, the money was not easy. And then I kept asking myself, something's pulling me. I don't know what this is. I don't need to know what this is. But then I switched completely to focusing on neuroscience, subconscious programming. And be okay with that. Be okay with change. But if you don't know what you want, or even give yourself space to ask that question, you're going to be creating a life that's not by your terms. And so you can play bigger, but are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Etc.
I ran into this a lot with, because when they first, even before they joined the sisterhood, I've got free email series, 4 weeks to a fresh start. It's basically the baby steps to what's your vision?
Yeah.
How you make a goal, how you get to that goal. I mean, it's the baby steps, right? Let me walk you through this, the emotion behind it, whatever. And so many of them just cannot answer that question. They cannot answer, what do I want and why do I want that? Because they are trapped in, well, what would my husband want me to say?
Totally.
What would my mother-in-law want me to say?
Yes.
What, right?
Yeah.
So how do you shatter that? How do you can't, but I mean, it's just a practice. It's a practice of consistently doing something. It's like, I'm just looking at these and I'm just like, just let it out, right?
Yeah.
Nothing is too out there. Be an astronaut. Go ahead. Sure.
Totally.
Be a firefighter. You're a 45-year-old woman. Go be a firefighter.
I know people have done it.
Right. Like, I don't care what is in your heart.
Yeah.
That I think you're right. I think the phone and being able to just have things at our fingertips has just, because kids and their imaginations. This is a perfect example. My first son, he's an old soul, and he's just very like observant.
Yeah.
And he never like played with toys. Like he would sit and just like observe things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm all, Rick, when does he get like an imagination? Like, when does it happen? Right? This is my first kid. I have no idea. I'm like, I don't know. Then the second one comes along and he's like, boom, boom. He's like lines stuff up and crashes cars. And I mean, he is full on just doing it. Right. And it's like, what's the difference there between this one? It's the easiest thing on the planet. So why is it so easy for kids? Well, because they haven't been conditioned with phones to at their every whim. Or I guess if you are doing that to your kids, think about that way. Hello, there's an aha moment. Are you constantly handing your kids a tablet? Are you constantly handing your kids a screen? You're diminishing their ability to imagine a bigger future, right? A bigger dream.
And even like, so, because I'll be honest, when you're in it and you're like, whether you're in a pit or you're stressed out or you're in a situation you don't like, it's like if someone says, oh, what do you want? I'd be like, F off. I don't know. I'm like miserable. I just don't know. So you can always ask, like, recognize a couple things. What do I not want? What's a contrast? Because the law of polarity is you can't have up without down. You can't have a problem without a solution. Light without dark. So if you don't know what you want, what do you not want? What do you hate? Hate a job.
Backwards.
I hate rules. Don't tell me what to do. Don't box me in. So I can start to look at the contrast of what do I not want. You don't even know just a little bit. And then notice in your day what energizes you, what expands you, what excites you. Is it being out in nature? Is it taking care of your health? Is it having certain conversations, reading certain topics? Is it, and notice, I think for, like you were saying, what comes up for a lot of people is when they start to explore, oh, what do I want? Then the thoughts coming up, you can't do that. Who do you think you are? You're 45, you're going to start over again now. You're 60, you're XYZ. And so we actually all do have the answers, but we don't give ourselves space to ask. And then it's just a matter of maybe asking, what do I want is not useful for you. So come up with a different way of asking that. Like, if I have, I don't know, a magic wand, it could grant me one wish. You can't ask for 1,000 wishes, but like, what would it be if I could dream anything? And just have fun and expand your brain, knowing there's no right or wrong without any judgment. Or use a contrarian. What do I not want? And see if there's opposite. And just notice in your day, what do I love? What lights me up? What energizes me? What expands me? What constricts me? What do I feel restricted by? And then as you start to get awareness of these things, answers will come to you. But if you're not programming your mind to even look for it, and a really quick thing we can do super fast is we have this very powerful part of our brain called the reticulating activating system. Probably heard of it. Its job is literally to scan the environment and bring to you what you deem is important. So right now, everyone listening to the podcast, and Gina, you do this, look around your room and find everything that's green. Like count. And everyone on the podcast actually do this. So look around your room and count everything you see that's green. And how many things do you see? Estimate.
Okay. Like 3.
3. Great. Now, how many purple things did you see? Don't look, but how many purple things did you see?
That's so funny.
What we're demonstrating is when you put your attention on things like, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, I'm not creative, your brain's going to show you evidence for that. When you start thinking a new thought pattern, or you start thinking of like, I don't know yet, but what would light me up, or wouldn't it be fun if, thinking about expansive possibility, your brain's now expanding from only finding the green to looking for the blue, the purple, the pink, the orange, that are all there, but you're not seeing it because your brain's not presenting it to you. So another really tangible example of this is, how many of us have gotten a car or a bag and we love it, and it's like, oh my gosh, you've been spending time researching this, you get this car, and now all of a sudden you see this car everywhere. And you're like, what the heck?
I'm dying.
Did everyone have a sale on this car? No.
I literally just used this example in my leader call
Amazing.
yesterday.
Exactly.
Literally. I said, yeah, all of a sudden 50 people went out and bought the exact same car as me yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But so when we think about our dreams, our goals, what we want, it's the same concept. What we're placing our attention on, energy flows, energy expands, and our brain's saying, okay, I keep thinking, I'm not creative, I don't know. Guess what your brain's going to show you more of? Just like the car example. It's going to show you evidence for that truth. Its only job is to help prove you right and find evidence for what you believe to be true. So start just thinking a new thought. Even if nothing comes to mind. I am creative. Wouldn't it be fun if I was creative? Wouldn't it be fun if I got the answer today or the clarity? Wouldn't it be fun if I woke up tomorrow and I had this idea? Like, just start planting seeds and start noticing, again, 4 billion bits of information every second funneling through. Your brain's only showing you like 1% of that. But there's 99% of everything else out there. So how we think, how we talk, where we place our attention, all can help uncover those answers. But are you even giving yourself space to ask yourself those questions? That's also something you gotta think about. Otherwise, if we're just busy, then we can't expect change to happen if we're not gonna do something different to create change. What's the definition of insanity? Do the same thing over and over again, expecting change.
Yeah. Expecting a different result.
Yeah.
No. Oh my gosh, I love it. I love it all so much. This has been so fun. I knew it was going to be a fun conversation. Oh my, no, I didn't.
Like left field tangents here.
We did. And I love, my listeners are so used to that with me. Oh my gosh. I'll be good. So I was just telling someone today, and this is a perfect example of this, is my Friday episodes. I have a hardest time with them because it's just me talking to myself, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, right? I'm talking, but,
yeah.
and it's not hard in the sense that, like, I love them. I think it's fun. I love talking. Yes. That's not the problem. The problem is my mind is, unless I sit and actually do, okay, so here's the 2 problems. One is if I sit and actually do an outline and try to keep it like clean, I end up like, like reading like I'm a robot. Mm-hmm. But if I get like excited and I'm all wanting to talk about something, I'll take a left turn. And I will just go the other direction, and then I'll be like, "Oh wait, how'd I end up down here?" Anyway, let's start somewhere new.
Back to the question. You know what?
Someone literally reached out to me, and she's like, "Oh, this one episode you were talking about this. Well, you kind of talked about a lot of things, but you were talking about this," and I was like,
"I love it."
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, but you know what?
But you got a lot of information in that.
Exactly, and someone needed to hear what you shared in that way. I find I get like my best podcast when I was driving this morning actually. I'm like, why didn't I record that as a podcast? Like, or when I'm walking out in nature, all these ideas come through and I'm like, I just need to record while I'm out in nature because the concepts or ideas are just like, obviously something that needs to be shared. I'm like, I need to record this here because if I plan stuff, that doesn't work for me. I know myself. If I have to sit there and make a plan, it's not going to work. I'll have like the starting concept and then I just go with it. Whether that's right or wrong.
That's what drew me to you was your walks.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I'm like, you were coaching me on your walks.
I love it.
And that's what I watched. I actually kind of scroll for those ones.
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
Anyway, I mean, no, they're just the ones that resonated with me just because I'm like, oh, she's on a walk. I want to hear what she's saying. Like, just happened to be what
you needed to hear that
called to me.
Exactly.
So appreciate you. I appreciate you. You know, everybody, if you can, the best place to go, right, is you're at Instagram, the Danya Douglas Hunt.
Yeah.
Because you've got your link tree in there, the link in your bio.
Yeah, with podcasts. What's actually fun? There is an exercise I take people through. It's called the perfect day exercise. I think it's actually dumb how I call it that.
The perfect exercise, because now you'll never forget what it's called because it's called the perfect day exercise.
Yes. So
What
it
is
can
it?
help. It's just a short guided visualization, imagination, whatever, to start evoking that same thing of like, what would my, not a vacation day, but what would my perfect day be? And I just prompt you through some questions. So you can get yourself, I think it's like 10 minutes long. I will warn you, I've had people go through this and completely change their careers. Not saying it's a bad thing, but again, it just gets you to check in and you give yourself some space and someone's prompting you with questions. And here's the thing about the subconscious mind, it has to answer your questions. So most of us don't either know how to ask the right questions to ourselves to evoke the right answers, or we just don't ask questions in general. So it's a 10-minute guided thing that helps prompt some questions for you just to start expanding and percolating of like, what would that be? Where would I live? And then you get to the fun part is recognizing, okay, if that's my perfect ideal day based on these prompts I got guided through, where am I now? And for some people, they're like, sweet, I'm right on track. Or, oh my gosh, I've actually accomplished so much of that already. And you can see the progress and growth already. Or for some people, it's like, holy crap, I'm doing nothing what I want to do. But then you, again, start to see, okay, well, what would that look like? How can I start incorporating? If that's my dream and I'm here, what's the next one step I can take? So it provides clarity, contrast, shows you progress, just in a very simple, I think, 10-minute audio that I posted. That's in that link in the bio too. I can also send that to you.
Go into it.
Easier. But yeah, again, it's just expanding the mind, asking yourself questions to get the answers you already have. You just haven't given yourself a chance to ask yourself.
And it's all a level. It's like where we started at. It's all a level of someone was here before me. Someone's further than I am. Someone's, it's like someone else has traveled X many countries. I've only traveled to, well, they started a lot sooner. There's a commercial to that extent where they get a Subaru or something and they put one sticker on the back and then the one next to them has like 20 stickers on the back and they're like, we need to catch up, you know? And it's like someone's already done that. So if you're at least in a community or you're reading a book or that's 1%, right?
Totally.
You're opening the door, you're getting curious,
Yeah.
you're, you know, it's moving in the right direction. Give yourself a little grace. You don't have to be like Ed Milet overnight here.
No, Ed Milet started with the example of like learning how to play an instrument, like a pianist, for example. The first thing is learning what the heck the white and black things are.
Yeah.
But you don't play the piano once and expect to be like a pianist who can just play music. It's like training. It's like everything though. Just stay consistently in this. Looping back to how we kind of started this is like, just stay with it and you're going to get there. The only thing why you're not going to get there is you get out of the game. But if you stick with it, do a little bit each day, read a book, listen to a podcast, be curious, spend more time with yourself, asking yourself questions, you will get to that vision. Your success is inevitable, but only if you stay in the game. That's how you play bigger.
Boom. Wrapped it up with the tiny, perfect little bow. Perfect little bow from the
Corny.
Play Bigger podcast.
Corny. I'm so corny.
I love it. Corny's good. Corny's memorable because
You know
people go, that's so corny, but then they remember it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like,
part of it.
what do I do with my hands? I mean, hello.
Where are they going?
What it's like anything. It's why do we quote Dumb and Dumber?
Right?
Other than it's
You remember
awesome.
stuff. Yeah.
All right, girl. I appreciate you being here and giving us your time and all of this
Gina.
insight. It's been gorgeous and I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.